the Nigerian stored product, in partnership with the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. This is our second post-harvest loss forum for the firm, and it is our first virtual forum, and we are glad that you are able to join us today. Today we'll be talking on an interesting topic which has become critical in this day of agricultural growth. We've experienced so much growth in the agricultural sector of the Nigerian economy, and this topic of discussion for today is quite critical to the growth of this sector. So we are a management consulting firm, and we help businesses to strategically identify growth areas and also harness them in order to achieve sustainability. So for us to have a conducive environment, we have set up some rules, some housekeeping rules here to guide us through the entire program. As you can see on the screen, we have a Q&A platform there. If you have any questions through the forum, you can send in your questions through that platform, the Q&A platform. And then we also have the chat platform where you can send in your concerns and also send in your comments about the event. Then this is also to let you know that we are streaming live on our social media platforms on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, you can check on our page, Wider Perspectives Limited, and get on board the forum through the live stream. You can also access this forum through our YouTube page, Wider Perspectives Limited, and you'll be able to get on board the forum. And also to let you know that this forum is currently recorded, and after the event, you may want to go back to social media platforms to access this, the recording of this forum. So if you'd want to talk, you can see the hand raised option there. You can click on the hand raised option and we'll call on you to send in your comments, or if possible, if there is enough time, you may be allowed to speak. So to further take us through this program, we'll like to introduce the MD of Wider Perspectives Limited, the Managing Director of Wider Perspectives Limited, Mrs. Idugom Hansen. She would come on board this moment to give us an overview of the activities that we have slated for this forum today. So please stay back, and if you're joining us from wherever you're joining us from, you're welcome to this forum. So Mrs. Hansen.
Thank you very much, Adaobi. So we have the program, which my colleague Adaobi has run us through. And we have it shared on the screen right now. I'll welcome everyone to this second post-harvest loss forum. This is the first virtual post-harvest loss prevention forum we've held. We've held quite a number. With the advent of COVID-19, we had to go virtual. So we've had quite a number of virtual forums. And for the post-harvest loss prevention forum, this is the second. This is the first we're having as a virtual program. The Honorable Commissioner of Agriculture, Rivers State, Dr. Fred Pakol, our keynote speaker, Professor Reverend Father Godfrey Nzamuje, founder Songhai Center, our panelists, Dr. Mrs. Idoroyin Ugochi Wahiljo, the Zonal Coordinator of Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, South-South, Southeast Zone, Nnaemeka Ikegwonu, founder and CEO, Coal Hubs Limited. Mr. Olabode Abikoye, CEO, Axvest Capital Limited. Temitope Jebutu, the MD AAC Food Processing and Distribution Limited. Mr. Anozike Felix, the manager, Bank of Agriculture, Port Harcourt. You can see that we have a well-packed panel to discuss the prevention of post-harvest losses. We also recognize Kalada Piafi, the chairman, Wider Perspectives Limited, our distinguished board of directors, representatives of agric institutes and agencies, our partners, Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Foundation for Partnership Initiatives in Niger Delta PIND, Development Bank of Nigeria, our dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, you're all welcome, and our distinguished staff of Wider Perspectives Limited for the relentless effort in ensuring that we keep impacting economies, we keep impacting businesses. We are delighted to see the actualization of the second WPL Post-Harvest Loss Prevention Forum. It's a private sector-driven initiative. And despite the issues, the challenges of the time we're in, we've been able to put this together. This forum was born out of the strong need to create awareness for post-harvest losses prevention. This will result to increased number of more informed food processors, because we know that agriculture is beyond the value chain. It's beyond primary agriculture. There is the value chain. So we want to have more informed farmers and also processors who will manage their produce better and increase their income. We had the maiden edition, the maiden forum in 2015 in collaboration with Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, NSPRI. And the focus then was on creating awareness on post-harvest losses. And after creating that awareness, we thought it was very important to also look at prevention. And so that's why we're having the forum today that is focused on prevention. And one major outcome from the maiden event was the collaboration with Nigeria Agile Oil Company, NAOC, to train and equip members of their host communities with technology geared towards reducing post-harvest losses. We've had that partnership, we've implemented that collaboration with NSPRI, ensuring that their farmers in the Green River project are well informed, through the Green River project are well informed and actually reducing post-harvest losses. It's important to note that post-harvest loss is a big thing. In 2019, agriculture contributed around 21.91% to Nigeria's GDP. But post-harvest losses is still a huge concern, as post-harvest losses in Nigeria has been estimated to range between 5 to 20% for grains, 20% for fish, and as high as between 50 to 60% for tubers. That's a huge loss. Fruits and vegetables. You know, this is gotten from the Business Day, August 23rd, 2019, the statistics. But you know, you don't even need to look at the figures. Just go to the fruit markets, just go to our markets, and you will see the huge waste. And sometimes I ask myself, what bottom line, how does this impact on the bottom line of the traders? Because now, beyond even the farm, so you have post-harvest losses from the farm to the market, and now in the market, you have even more losses. And I ask myself, how do these marketers break even? Because those losses are impacting on their profit. So you just walk up to the markets and then you will see the huge losses. And in 2020, Reports show that 1/3 of food, about 1.3 billion ton, produced globally, worth about 1 trillion, is lost during post-harvest operations yearly. Also, the Food and Agriculture Organization, that's the FAO, puts food losses at about 14%, beginning from the post-harvest stage too, but excluding even the retail stage. So they put that at 14% globally. Now, the effect of food waste and loss is large, and it's an increasing problem that is particularly acute in developing countries like Nigeria. And so that's why we're having this forum today, because we really want to impact economies. We really want to impact from the micro level to the macro level. We want to impact farmers, we want to impact, holder farmers, the value to the entire value chain. And we're so excited that we have the kind of panelists we have today to discuss this. And it reduces income by about at least the minimum 15% for the 470 million smallholder farmers and downstream value chain actors, most of whom are part of the 1.2 billion people who are food insecure. So we're already food insecure. We already have issues with feeding, with food, and then we have these losses. So it's a real challenge. It's a real issue that needs to be addressed and nipped in the bud early. Early is relative because it should have been nipped long ago, but this is the next best time, and we're saying we really need to nip these losses in the bud. Some of these losses occur on the farm during harvest, gathering, and others occur while commodities are in transit. The stack tomato in those baskets, half of it goes rotten before it gets to the farm. So you buy a basket of tomato, and then you're picking out very soft ones. You're picking out the hard ones, and the soft ones actually get to almost half of the entire basket, and that's a loss, first of all. And even the unhygienic nature of having to, because some marketers actually, also even those that run restaurants and all, even go to buy those very soft ones. Some, they call them rotten tomatoes, and this is unhygienic. So there are a lot of negative impact of having post-harvest losses. Post-harvest loss is a huge loss to the nation and a major challenge bedeviling several African nations. So it's very important, it's very imperative that we come up with solutions. We're looking at solutions. So at Wider Perspectives Limited, we profile solutions. We want solutions to solve these problems associated with post-harvest losses. To mention but very few measures or approaches that can be adopted, which we discussed extensively during the panel discussion. Provision of constant power supply is very important. Establishment of farm produce processing industries, marketing linkages, massive investments in agriculture and research. Also, there are also other measures that can also add beyond even the power. Processing is key. Processing is huge. Our objectives for this post-harvest loss forum include to increase Nigeria's agricultural self-reliance through post-harvest loss prevention, ensure the reduction or elimination of loss of revenue, because we can conserve that revenue in the agricultural sector caused by post-harvest losses. Update and improve the post-harvest loss management skill of farmers and other agro-processors. Another objective is to enhance the income of farmers involved in the production, harvesting, processing, and marketing of agricultural products. We want to also create a platform for users and developers of post-harvest loss prevention technology to interact. Because if we do not know ourselves, if we do not know where this exists, it's possible that we keep working in silos and not interacting. It's so important to interact and know what kind of support you can bring to the table. So this platform will help with that kind of interaction and bring different players, different actors together. We also want to educate participants on modern practice and remedies to prevent post-harvest losses. And to achieve the objectives of this forum, we'll focus on the following pillars: advocacy, on post-harvest loss prevention. We want to also facilitate market linkages among actors in the industry. I've said that. We want to curb the huge financial loss attributed to post-harvest losses. We want to enhance and encourage transition from subsistence to commercial, from subsistence farming or agriculture to commercial agriculture in the country. More processing can be done, more value addition can be done. That's really the way to grow our economy. That's really the way to grow that business. We want to facilitate and seek for more investment in the agricultural value chain. And very importantly, achieving zero loss in agriculture is impossible to achieve zero, but we can go as minimal as even 5%, 1% loss. You know, that's margin of error. So we can reduce these losses significantly. We want this discussion, we want this forum, not just to be one for discussion alone, but an action forum. It's important that after this forum, you actually go back and act on the learnings you would have from this forum. Please note important points down. Note action points you will take. And then let's collaborate. Let's discuss more even after this forum. You should not just end at our discussion here. We should actually take this discussion further after this forum and look for ways of interacting. We have wonderful, imagine that we have the keynote address by the founder of the Songhai Center, where nothing wastes, everything is recycled. That's huge. So let's have further discussion after this forum. We wish you a wonderful time at this second post-harvest loss prevention forum. And we already see you in our next forum with success stories of how you were able to use the various strategies, the various suggestions discussed at this forum to impact your business positively. Thank you very much. And I'll hand over to my colleague, Adalbi Ome. Thank you very much for your time and welcome again.
Thank you, Mrs. Edugom Hansen, for that deep insight on the program for today. If you're just joining us, we will be discussing the topic today on leveraging technology in preventing post-harvest losses. So from all that Mrs. Hansen has said, we have some data to back up the reason for this forum. So we didn't just come up with this forum. It is something that is critical and there is a purpose for this forum. So going further in the program for today, we have an opening remark to be presented by the Chairman, Wider Perspectives Limited, Mr. Kalada Apiafi. So Mr. Kalada, we're ready to hear you. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think with that elaborate address by Mrs. Hansen, I don't know why I was asked to come and speak. Anyway, I'll just say a few things, maybe to just, what will I say, supplement what she has said, complement what she has said. Secondly, I mean, with the powerful people like the Reverend Father, the Madam partner from NSPRI, and the panelists, again, like I said, who am I to speak? But I believe I was asked to speak because of my passion about post-harvest losses. A couple of years ago, specifically about the year 2000, we're doing a blueprint for the River State government. And I went to a place called Oirokoto in River State. It's reputed to be the largest fishing port in West Africa. They catch a lot of fish, and I saw fish being thrown back into the water. But of course, you know, by the time the fish is being thrown back into the water, it's dead and therefore no longer edible. So that caught my attention. And then, of course, traveling around the country, I used to see heaps of mangoes, particularly. You go to the market, you see rotten tomatoes, and I said, "Hey, this is a major problem." But then, just like Mrs. Hansen said, when we decided to do some research, the magnitude of the issue was very astounding. We're talking about figures like a third of agricultural produce globally being lost post-harvest, and representing about 1.3 billion tons of food per year in a world where there are many hungry people. So we've taken it upon ourselves to do a lot of advocacy. We're not government, but we can do advocacy, because government, of course, the private sector and government can partner to solve the problem. So our major role is to create awareness, because, I mean, I was seeing it in a very small dimension, but when like I said, when we did the research, when you're looking about billions of tons, that's a lot. That is a lot. That can create several economies. It can reduce poverty. It can create wealth. It can help SME development. It can solve so many problems of the world. So I want to thank NSPRI for going along with us on this journey. Like my colleague has said, the first one was in 2015. Again, when doing the blueprint in the year 2000, we noticed that even sometimes inadequate infrastructure, these are some of the things government needs to address. Inadequate infrastructure could lead to post-harvest losses. Some communities we went to, after the rains, it was difficult for us to come out. And those are agricultural communities. In fact, one of the communities in River State, I don't know about currently, but as at then, the road network was so bad that it was better for them to trade with Abia State, which is the next state to River State, rather than River State. They were basically more or less cut off from River State. So there's need for even infrastructure to support, to reduce post-harvest losses. So it's a major issue, and we hope, like Mrs. Hansen has said, that we will be able to take some action beyond just one company, which is the Green River Project, but to create some change in the nation. Because if you have a continent, Africa being the poorest continent, we should be in the vanguard of mitigating post-harvest losses. So I also want to thank those who have made out the time, because sometimes some of these seemingly esoteric topics don't seem to attract people. And that's why sometimes a lot of the problems of the world don't get solved. People would rather, if you say Big Brother now, you see thousands of people coming to watch. But these are major problems. So we want to thank those who have made the time to come out, and also thank our panelists. Our panelists are extremely busy, but they and I do some business, and I know how difficult it is for him to have even made time. So I want to thank the panelists. I'm not trying to advertise for Cold Hubs, but Cold Hubs is doing major work with the solar powered cold storage. These are the sort of innovations that are also needed to curb post-harvest losses. There's need for a lot of innovation, and I hope that we will see more of such innovation, so that together we can develop our country. Thank you, and we hope you have a nice time with us.
Thank you so much for that word from you, Mr. Kalada Apiafi. He is the chairman, Wider Perspectives Limited. So going further, now we have an overview of the activities that we have lined up for today. And we have the opening remark from the chairman. So I would like to introduce myself. My name is Adobe Umi, and I am the Team Lead Economic Analysis Wider Perspectives Limited, and I will be your facilitator for the forum today. Okay, so moving forward, we have a keynote address by a distinguished professional in the agricultural sector, Father Godfrey Nzamujo, OP. So unfortunately, he is not here able to join us live, but he has sent a very powerful recording, a very powerful address to us, which we're going to put on here and we will watch and listen to. So Father Godfrey Nzamujo was born in Kano, Nigeria in 1950. He obtained his BA in modern philosophy and mathematics, his master's degree in theology, where he specialized in creation-centered and evolution option. And he also has his PhD in economic philosophy. He further obtained a higher diploma in systems engineering as well as an MS in electrical engineering at Loyola Marymount University, Los Angeles, California, and a PhD also in electrical engineering and computer service from the University of California at Irvine. Nzamujo is the founder and director of the Songhai Regional Center, established in 1985 with its headquarters in Porto Novo in the Republic of Benin. He has also been a research fellow and professor at the University of California, Irvine, an associate pastor at St. Nicholas Catholic Church, Laguna Hills, California, and he is also an associate professor of engineering at Loyola Marymount University, Los Angeles, California. So right now we're going to take the keynote address from our speaker, Father Godfrey Nzamujo. Please stay tuned. The audio is not good. Can you check that out, please? Please, can you send a message if you can hear, or if you can hear the audio, the words from the video? Okay, apologies for that technical challenge. We will put the video up. It will be up shortly. We apologize for the audio challenge in the video. Please give us a second. Thank you. Okay, so I think there's still the audio challenge. All right, while we get that fixed, we'll just move further, then we will have to go back to the keynote address later on. So we have a short video. Okay, we'll have to turn off the video for now and then move on, and we can come back to the video when we have the audio challenge fixed. We also have another video from the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. Is a very short video that we also want to watch, and it actually sets the base for the discussion that we will be having today. So can you please put on the video by NSPRI? Okay. All right. So while we get the audio, apologies for the audio challenges that we've been experiencing. While we wait for that to be sorted out, I'll just want to introduce uh, the speakers that we have for today's discussion. Okay, we have a profile of our partner for this forum, the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, NSPRI. And we have the profile of the zonal coordinator up there, and her name is Dr. Mrs. Idonre Nwehujo. So Dr. Mrs. Idonre Nwehujo is a research scientist and the zonal coordinator of Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, NSPRI, South-South-Southeast Zone. She holds a PhD in chemistry from the University of Ilorin, Kwara State, Nigeria. She is a member of the Chemical Society of Nigeria, CSN, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, OSWD, and she's also a fellow of the World Academy of Science, TWAS. She has authored many peer-reviewed journal articles, and her research output has been presented in many scientific fora in Nigeria. Now, that's a brief profile of Dr. Mrs. Idonre Nwehujo. You're welcome to the forum, madam. We're glad you're part of us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, we also have another seasoned professional in our panel for today's discussion. His name is Mr. Olabode Abikoye. Mr. Olabode Abikoye has a span of 27 years varied work experience in mortgage banking, commodity exportation, commercial and investment banking in reputable Nigerian financial institutions. He has at various times in the course of his career served as lead in the establishment of strategic business units across various financial institutions in Nigeria, in pioneering roles in agribusiness, PPP, that's public-private partnership, infrastructure, and private equity and asset management. Bode holds a bachelor's degree in agriculture from the University of Ilorin and a Master of Business Administration degree from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He is also an alumnus of the Infrastructure in a Market Economy and Senior Executive Fellows Program of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. He led the agribusiness team in Union Bank of Nigeria PLC until March 2017, when he was appointed to the board of the Bank of Agriculture. where he serves as the executive director leading the wholesale banking and southern operations directorate of the bank. On the continental and national levels, Bode has also served as chairman of Anglophone West Africa, of the Africa Rural and Agricultural Credit Association, and he is currently the champion for the Agriculture and Food Security Policy Commission at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. You're welcome to this forum, Mr. Olabode Abikoye. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, also on the panel, we have another distinguished personality, Mr. Nnemeka Ikegwona. Nnemeka is a farmer, a community radio agricultural presenter. He is the founder, CEO of Cold Hops Limited and Executive Director of Smallholders Foundation Limited / GTE. He holds a master's in international development and cooperation from the Institute for Advanced Studies of the University of Pavia, Italy. He founded Smallholders Foundation. The website is there on the screen, www.smallholdersfoundation.org.ng, in 2003 at the age of 21. The organization uses a smallholder farmers rural radio, Farm FM network to reach an estimated 250,000 farmers with daily agriculture, environmental management, and market access radio educational messages. In 2015, Nnemeka launched Cold Hopes, a social business that designs, installs, and commissions 100% solar-powered walk-in cold rooms in farms and marketplaces to enable smallholder farmers, retailers, and wholesalers to store, preserve, and move fresh fruits, vegetables, and other perishable fruits 24/7, thereby extending the shelf life from 2 days to 21 days. Code Hub aims to eliminate the impact of food spoilage and lack of small-scale post-harvest infrastructure facing 470 million smallholders farmers globally and increase the income of farmers and retailers because previous losses have been eliminated. Nnemeka is Nigeria's most prominent young agriculturist. He is an Ashoka Fellow 2008, a laureate of the Rolex Awards for Enterprise 2010, Laureate Wise Awards 2010, Future Awards Nigeria's Young Person of the Year 2011, Fast Company USA 100 Most Creative in Business 2012, laureate of the Niligita International Food Prize Japan 2012, and also 2013 laureate of the prestigious Yara Prize for Green Revolution in Africa, now Africa Food Prize, among other international and local recognitions. Mr. Nnemeka Ikegwona, we are honored to have you on this program. Thank you for being a part of us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you, sir. So we also have another distinguished personality on the panel, Mr. Temitope Jebutu. He is a Nigerian agribusiness professional with over 16 years of experience in operations management, working with multinational and international organizations. He spent the last 7 years with AACE Foods, Food Processing and Distribution Limited, as the managing director, working with over 10,000 smallholder farmers across Nigeria. Temitope says joining AACE Foods has led the growth of the organization in promoting nutrition amongst Nigeria's vulnerable population, improving livelihood of smallholder farmers, and displacing imports through promoting local sourcing. And these drives were recognized by Africa Diaspora Marketplace, Innovation Against Poverty, Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund, Business Call to Action, West Africa Food Market, London Stock Exchange, to mention a few. His work experience cuts across Nigeria and Canada. He has worked with McDonald's Canada and Sakai Spice Canada prior to joining AACE Foods. Temitope held a BSc in Estate Management from Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, an MBA in Operations Management from Frederick Taylor University, United States, a Quality Management Certificate from University of Manitoba, Canada, and presently working on an MBA in Food Security with Business School, Netherlands. He is also a Cochrane Fellow. Temitope continues to work as a change agent in the Nigerian agricultural sector and remains committed to promoting nutrition, producing nutritious food, improving livelihood of smallholder farmers, and also ensuring gender equality and women empowerment in the agribusiness space. Thank you so much, Mr. Temitope, for joining us. We are glad you are here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. So this is the profiles that we just read out shows the capacity of the panelists that we have on board for the discussion for today, titled Leveraging Technology in Preventing Post-Harvest Losses. So I don't know, do we have the video ready before we move to the meet for today's forum, the panel? Okay, I guess we'll have to take the video later. All right, so we'll go to the panel, move over to the panel for today's discussion. Okay, so I'll start with Mr. Olabode Abikoye. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Idore, Dr. Mrs. Idore Wehujo. Apologies that your video was unable to come up. Would you like to say something? She is from NSPRI, our partner for the forum for today. Okay, ma'am, please go on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me, Ma. I welcome everybody to the forum. My name is Dr. Idore. I have a short presentation. I don't know if I can go ahead now.
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. The presentation is titled Preventing Post-Harvest Losses Through the Use of Advanced Technology. And this is the technology that I'm going to talk about is more about NSPRI, Nigerian Stock Product Research Institute. A brief about NSPRI. Nigerian Stock Product Research Institute is an institute under the supervision of Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, ARCN, in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. I think I should share my screen.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
No, it's not yet up, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. While you work on the screen coming up, you can continue when it comes up. We follow from there.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Is my screen up now?
Yes, it is. Please go
Okay.
on, ma'am. Thank you.
So, all right. My topic is preventing post-harvest losses through the use of advanced technology. And I was giving a brief about NSPRI, Nigerian Stock Products Research Institute, that is a parastatal under the supervision of Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. NSPRI has its headquarters at Ilorin, Kwara State. And it also have different zonal offices. We have an office in Lagos, Kano, Ibadan, and Port Harcourt. We also have outstations. The outstations are more of outreach groups and not more of research. That's why they are called outstation. And the location of Port Harcourt office is at Mile 4, Rumeme, Ikwere Road. The institute is currently headed by the Chief Executive Officer in the person of Dr. Mrs. Patricia Pesu. Reducing post-harvest losses by ensuring the quality, safety, and availability of agricultural produce has been the mission of the Institute. Our activities are post-harvest research, capacity building, and dissemination of post-harvest technologies. What are post-harvest losses? Post-harvest losses are measurable losses in quality and quantity of food in the post-harvest system. We find out that at harvest period, the food is always in surplus, but due to inadequate storage, there is always wastage. So beyond looking at increasing agricultural production, there is need to look at post-harvest management critically in order to cook post-harvest losses. So the use of advanced technology is imperative to curtailing post-harvest losses. Whenever we talk about this post-harvest technology, advanced technologies, we are not actually talking about something really very big and expensive that is really far out of reach. It can just be small little things, adjustments that has been made to improve post-harvest management and storage. NSPRI has different technologies to handle post-harvest losses. We have Hematic storage system, and these are, some of them are plastics, and while some of them are made of steel drum of different sizes. Experimental trial on this Hematic storage system have been one very key thing in storage with the Hematic system is that the crop has to be dried to a safe moisture level. If the crops are not properly dried, they will go bad, even in Hematic storage. So it is important that the crops are properly dried and then they are stored in the Hematic system. And when they are stored in this Hematic system, they are free from insect attack and they'll be safe for a long period of time. We also have the maize crib that is used for the storage of corn. We have different warehouses for small and medium scale storage, and then the inert atmosphere silos. This inert atmosphere silos is used for the storage of grains like maize, sorghum, millet, rice, wheat, and cowpea. Our trial has showed that storing grains in this inert atmosphere could keep the grains safe for over 2 years or 3 years. And they are not using any synthetic chemicals. They are just naturally stored using an Hematic system. Insects cannot breed in the inert atmosphere silos. We also have other storage facilities like the diffuse light store, which is used for the storage of potatoes. In the area, we have improved yam barn for the storage of yam tubers. We have cassava warehouses, and as I mentioned before, the diffuse light store for the storage of sweet potatoes. In handling of fruits and vegetables, it is important that the fruits and vegetables are kept cold. And in most cases, the cooling system are out of reach of the rural farmers because most of them require electricity for them to be able to run. But we have our ECS, that's the evaporative cooling system, that are operated without the use of electricity. So it is of advantage for those that are living in rural areas that could not access or afford electricity. In order to prevent post-harvest losses in fruits and vegetables, we have the ventilated crates for the transportation of fresh tomatoes and other fruits. In most cases, you see that the tomatoes that are being transported from one place to the other, they make use of cane baskets, and these cane baskets are packed together. The products are stacked in such a way that they are mashed together, but these plastic crates that NSPRI recommend, they are stackable. By the time you load the products, they will not stand on each other. So the products that are inside these crates are preserved. So we strongly recommend the use of these crates for transportation of fruits. We also have different types of dryers for drying our crops. We have the solar tent dryers. Some of them are operated with electricity for those that can use electricity. We also have the ones that are operated with sunlight. They are powered with sunlight, but they are made in such a way that the heat within the dryers are higher than what we have at the ambient, and then the crops do not get contaminated by dust, by insects or other animals. So as an improvement to farmers that are drying on the roadside, just spreading it on the ground where the crops get contaminated by insects and dust, it is advisable that they use this technology for drying their grains, so that apart from having a dry product, we also have a safe product for consumption. NSPRI has also come up with technologies on the storage of fish to prevent post-harvest losses. We have our fish ice box, which is used for the storage of fish. It's also suitable for transportation of fresh fish. Fresh fish could be transported using ice with this NSPRI ice fish box. For about 3 days, we make use of ice to preserve the fish inside the box. It's suitable for transportation and for storage of fresh fish to extend the shelf life. We also have our smoking kiln that is used for drying of fish and meat. The unique features of NSPRI smoking kiln is that it can be powered with charcoal, can be powered with gas and electricity. So depending on the power source that you are able to access, you can make use of our smoking kiln. It also have an oil collector that, aside from the fish, which is the main product, the fish oil as a byproduct is also collected and used. And then the oil that is collected from our smoking kiln has been analyzed, and it has been found to be fit for consumption. So aside getting the fish, which is the main product, you can also have the fish oil as a byproduct. And fish oil has been found to be very good for the body. And also, NSPRI smoking kiln dry the fish in such a way that there is no contamination with polyaromatic hydrocarbon, which is a major problem with some of our smoked fish. Some of our smoked fish are not exportable because they have higher amounts of polyaromatic hydrocarbon, which is a cancer precursor. But the fish that is dried with NSPRI smoking kiln has been found to be of acceptable limits of polyaromatic hydrocarbon. Then in the area of food safety, we have different laboratories in our different stations that are well positioned for mycotoxin detection and analysis. And we also have standard laboratories for analysis of our food products. So aside the storage, preserving, extension of shelf life, we also watch to make sure that what we actually store are also safe for consumption. And we have also developed inert doors that are used for the storage of grains. And these inert dust, they do not have any effect, negative effects on the crops that are being stored, because they are inert materials, they do not react with the stored materials. In conclusion, leveraging on the various technologies of NSPRI will reduce post-harvest losses and make food available for local consumption, and also make our food products to be acceptable as export commodities. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Dr. Mrs. Idore Nwehujo. That's some innovation, some very commendable innovation from NSPRI. And just like you concluded, we need to produce in country to a level where we can feed ourselves and also export outside the country. And we can only achieve that if we're able to minimize waste to the barest minimum. And with this presentation, we'll move over to the discussion for today, our panel for today. And I'll start with a question to Mr. Bode Abikoye. Mr. Bode, could you please just throw some insight on what post-harvest loss is all about? You know, what is post-harvest loss? Related it to the country, Nigeria, bring it home. What is post-harvest loss all about?
Like the doctor said, post-harvest losses are the losses to agricultural produce that we suffer due to inadequate management after the commodities have been harvested. Inadequate management in terms of the kind of processing we put the commodities to, and the kind of storage that we pass the commodities through. Now there are different, because there are different post-harvest, there are different commodities. Like the doctor just showed us now. We have roots and tubers, we have horticulture, we have grains and oilseeds, we have a number of other commodities that lend themselves differently to storage and processing requirements. She showed us cassava amongst one of the commodities they've developed a storage strategy for. But the question, what market are we targeting? And what is the expectation of that market? If I'm looking at fish for my family to be able to eat, or I'm willing to, or I just want to preserve tomatoes so that it doesn't spoil before I can get it to the market, it will be a different proposition from whether or not I'm going to an industrial user who is under some form of regulation and therefore also expects certain standards in terms of what they can collect. You will agree with me that most of the money that smallholder farmers will make is not going to come from consumptive purchases. It's going to come from those entities that require their output as their own input for industrial processing. So what kind of expectations do those people have? In most cases, they need to be able to produce year-round, but we are still cultivating in Nigeria as a matter of rain-fed agriculture. So it means we need to be able to preserve commodities for much longer, and those commodities must meet a certain minimum standard. That is where we have not gotten. That is why a large portion of industrial users of agricultural commodities are still importing and will continue to import agricultural commodities for a while until we get the issue of post-harvest management correct. So there are a number of issues that needs to be dealt with. Are we going to continue to handle post-harvest management from a subsistence perspective, where we are just supporting the farmer to be able to preserve commodities on a subsistence level, both for their private consumption and for sale in our local markets? Or are we going to really move towards industrialization and begin to put things in place that is going to make us get the kind of scale that will make industrialists be able to depend on us, that is going to make it possible for us to be able to export these commodities because they meet international standards. I'll give you an example. When we scrapped the commodity boards in 1986 as a requirement of the structural adjustment program, we did not put any institutional framework in place to step into that gap. So anything went. Our farmers will still dry in the open. Ruminants will trample on them and ease themselves on it. While it is okay for us because it is what we can see, when these things get to the international market, they do not meet the standards that the market expects. So you find out that our pricing started to be downgraded in terms of what we could get for our exportation. And also the acceptability of our commodities began to look much more questionable. So if I will be looking at post-harvest loss management, I'll be looking at it from the perspective of what scale do we have. The technology that the doctor showed us, they make a lot of sense. But who is investing in that smoking kiln, for example? Has anybody tried to patent it? Because I have tried to import smoking kilns from France before, and I know how much it costs. But how much exactly, who exactly is invested in the scaling of these this technology that NSPRI and a number of other research institutes in Nigeria are committing themselves to? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that information. Our next question will go to Mr. Nemeka. Mr. Nemeka, what factors, if you don't know the cause of something, getting a solution to that problem becomes an issue. So what would you think causes post-harvest losses? Would you like to throw some light so we know where or what we need to do better, or which areas in the value chain that we need to handle with more care to prevent much loss? So what do you think are the causes from your experience of these losses, these huge losses that farmers experience in the agricultural sector?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And it's very nice to be here. I'm excited about this session. Yeah, going back to your question, I think for post-harvest losses, we see it first as the spoilage and wasting of food that is ordinarily meant for human or livestock consumption due to inefficiencies at key points along the food supply chain. And these inefficiencies can come in form of not adopting best practices in harvesting, using the wrong tools, or either in packing lines, or there are also inefficiencies around processing. There can be inefficiencies around using the wrong packaging material that we typically see all across the country and in other African countries. There are other inefficiencies around distribution in the mode of transportation and transportation itself, and marketing in several sectors in each key point around the food supply chain. Any inefficiency within that key point leads to spoilage of the food. And you know, spoilage is different from food waste. Food spoilage is food ordinarily intended for human consumption that we lose due to these inefficiencies. And this is widespread in developing countries where there is a lack of infrastructure to support food supply, you know. Whereas we have the opposite, which is food waste in developed countries. These are food that is intentionally or typically thrown away because there is excess of food, you know. And you have these in developed countries because food production is an industrial process, a commercial process at a large scale, you know, compared to our own food production process, which is largely smallholder farmer driven. You know, so really to get down to your question, it is a challenge that lack of infrastructure to support food supply leads to. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So you've differentiated between food waste and food spoilage. So which is the focus of post-harvest loss? Is that food spoilage or both, a combination of both food waste and food spoilage?
I think for the purposes of this narrative and discussion, because we are discussing within the
Okay.
context of Nigeria, I think problem is food spoilage. Food spoils in this country. I don't think Nigerians typically throw away food because the food is not excess at a lot of time. You know, the food you see that spoils on the highways, you know, like Mr. Apiafi mentioned, and the food that spoils in the marketplaces is as a result of lack of infrastructure, you know, to support that food. Let me give you an instance. If when you go to the tomato production triangle in the north of Nigeria, Kano, Katsina, and Kaduna, you know, people who are the farmers spend several hours, you know, harvesting tomato. They put it in the raffia baskets, you know, and they keep it under a tree or under a shed, and they wait for the truck to come in, you know. The packaging, the process of putting it inside the raffia basket is totally wrong. The raffia basket has small needles, kind of needles, and it punctures the soft shell of the tomato. You know, so by the time the truck comes in, you know, they transfer the baskets of tomato into the truck. You know, the way of packaging, the transfer process is wrong. You keep baskets on top of each other. So, you know, we follow the tomato truck all the way from Zaria to Abuja, and the tomato truck drips of water. The water that is coming out from the tomato truck are actually the nutrients of the tomato. By the time the tomato arrives in the market, you know, what is left of the nutrients are not there, but we just buy it. But there is something going on. Most of the wholesalers hustle to sell in the morning. You know, they put up a little bit of price, get a markup. But when you follow the tomato and see, for instance, and I'm using tomato just to illustrate, you know, when you follow the tomato and you see that the price that they sell for 20 or 40 kilograms of tomato by 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. is not the same price they will sell by 3 p.m., 4, 5, 6. The prices are always different. So people who want high quality or supposedly high quality come to buy early in the morning, you know, but they feel is high quality. In some cases, they are still high quality, you know. And people who want to buy the spoiled tomato that they transform into tomato paste, they come to buy later in the evening. But you see, the food spoilage and the process, why that spoilage occurs through that supply chain is because there are no infrastructure. There should be infrastructure to support food once it is harvested. There should be infrastructure to support food in the packing lines. We should have pre-coolers in the farm clusters to pre-cool the food before the truck comes in. The food should be packaged with the right packaging material that limits bruises around the food. You know, we should actually have refrigerated trucks for the case of fresh fruit and vegetables, which is our expertise. You know, you should have the appropriate truck that comes in to pick up the food. We should have the right road so that when you calculate that this truck makes a trip from Lagos to Kano or Kano to Lagos in 14 or 16 hours, it should be there. We should have cooling system and storage infrastructure in marketplaces, you know, at each key point across the food supply chain. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Talking about packaging, I'll come back to that question because it's very, very important. And a lot of persons have reportedly been having challenges when it comes to packaging. So I'll come back to you with more questions on food packaging. Okay, so the next question that will be, Mr. Temitope, you are experienced in promoting women involvement in the agribusiness. So far from your experience working with women, we know that especially in the rural areas, in the local communities, women have a higher percentage of involvement in agribusiness. What the post-harvest loss is like in the rural communities. So from your experience working with these women, trying to promote their activities, what do you think may have caused that huge loss that is usually experienced in the rural areas when it comes to agriculture? From your experience, can you just shed more light? Yes, sir. Can you please unmute your microphone? You're muted.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry about that. To actually correct the notion, we actually still have more men in the value chain, especially in the area of farming. As at today, we have been able to transition most of the clusters we work with from having about a 5% women inclusion to about 30% women inclusion. And to answer the questions of around the spoilage, and thanks to Mr. Emeka for pointing that out. In fact, when he was pointing out the difference between the food spoilage and the wastage, I was thinking about the first world problem and the third world problem. The first world problem is there's too many food, they don't know what to eat. A lot of it, goes into waste. But then in our own third world problem, there's no food to eat, and yet we have food in the spoilage, But then a lot of the speakers have spoken about a lot of things that happen right after the post-harvest loss, right after harvest. But then some of the critical things that actually lead to post-harvest, a lot of it actually happened even before the harvest, and one of those instances are cases of uncertified seed. So when you have farmers using the wrong set of seed, it leads to low quality products. And when you get low quality products, you get products that, the duration, the lifespan, is not going to be in line with what the ideal one should be. And another major problem we've seen happen is the issue about market intelligence. And in most cases, market intelligence is supposed to be driven by data. And in this case, where you cannot match demand and supply, so the farmers do not have an idea of what the market is demanding. So all they are thinking about is to produce, and to produce. And when situations like this happen, and just like Mr. Labode had mentioned earlier, we're running a rain-fed agriculture. And by rain-fed agriculture, that means that we're going to plant majority of what we're going to need for the entire year within a short period of time. And what this leads to is you have more food in supply during a particular time, and the demand is actually for it. So you see cases where farmers have to crash down prices, like Mr. Enemeka mentioned in the market, and you see cases where a lot of product going into wastage. And like Mrs. Idoren, you mentioned, some of these farmers will start to dry. But then what you also see happen is most times what they start to dry is at the point when they know they can't sell it. So the quality of what they dry, for us at Ace Foods, we work with dry spices. So we've seen situations where farmers dry spoiled fruits and vegetables just because they're trying to make some gain rather than throwing everything away into the waste. And when this happens, even the quality of what we get in dry food is not in line with what we expect, because we're also working with specifications. So a lot of these issues come around what eventually affects the harvest to be poor. So we have a lot of situations where when the products eventually gets loaded into you've been in a truck from Kaduna, and a lot of these roadblocks that you just pass through by giving some money, sometimes you're delayed a considerable amount of time. And mind you, what most of these guys are carrying is almost at the point of spoilage. We have had a situation where we brought in garlic from the north. And when the garlic was delivered to the factory, it looked really good. And we accepted. But then the next day, the garlic had transformed into a rotten garlic. Then what happened? We realized that the rottenness started from within. So we could not see it until the amount of time needed to really come out, became obvious. Some of the things that we have used as a means of, preventing some of these things. One major one we use is dehydration. So we have a dehydration chamber. Closer to the dry, a typical dryer, but this is different. So because we're using it for vegetables, it's more like a low temperature, long process. And even for us, what we tend to dehydrate are produce that once they are dried, they tend to give you a lot more value to cover the cost of those processes. So you find us drying produce like onions and produce like garlic, just because these are premium produce that are not available in the market. And these are areas where a lot of improvements need to happen. We grow so much in short time. And now, how do we process them into dried produce, be able to keep them for the longer period of time when they would be used? So those are some of the things that needs to happen. That's my submission for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been educative so far. And I'll just want to tell our audience, the participants, if you have any questions for the panelists, you can send in your questions through the Q&A room and we will get them to our speakers for answers. And also, if you're joining us from our social media platforms, you can comment, use the comment boxes to send in your questions and we'll get them across to our panelists. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Temitope. This question now goes to Dr. Mrs. Idoreen. Ma, you are with NSPRI and you've been churning out innovation with regards to storage, food storage, and food preservation. So we know one major challenge. I've had some discussions with some persons, and the cost of this equipment, this technology that they need to preserve this food. Most times they are not able to meet up with this cost. So I just want to ask, in NSPRI, you have that vision for food preservation. What efforts have you been able to make to ensure that even people in the rural communities with very low level of income still have access to this technology to be able to preserve their farm produce?
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Beyond just turning out the technologies, we have made efforts to get the technologies down to the end users. At the beginning of this year, storage drum that I talked about, the institute embarked on a project of sharing those Hematic storage drums to people that need it, that the farmers. It was shared free to different people. There was information was given out for farmers group to register. So through our extension agents, they were able to get to the end users and the drums were shared to those that needs it. And also we have different incubation centers where these technologies are disseminated to farmers. And from time to time, we organize training for the farmers and other stakeholders. And beyond training, we also carry out empowerment to make sure that the stakeholders actually benefit from the different technologies.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Bode, you've had some experience in advocacy when it comes to food preservation. From your experience so far, do you think the government is responding to, what efforts do you think the government has been able to make to ensure that food is sufficient to a level in the economy. Before we even think of exporting, you have that experience. So what efforts or what has government done so far, or what would you recommend the government to do to ensure that we have
why
a
do you
high
want to
level
bring
of
government
food
into this
security?
conversation? You guys are wearing
because
perspective. You're always trying to get me into trouble. Why are we bringing government into this conversation? Let me start by
government has a role to play.
Let me start by saying I believe that the duty of government is the duty of the public good. If we expect government to take decisive action in segments of the agricultural value chain that have a commercial coloration, then we are going to wait forever. Let me be supportive of government, but you can also read through the lines. You can read in between the lines. If government has to deal with education, has to deal with health, is going to deal with security by fighting Boko Haram and the others, are we going to realistically, beyond setting up the research institutes, are we going to realistically expect government to be able to do anything major than setting up the research institutes? Government in most cases, which is what it should be, is run by politicians whose duty and one of their core competencies is to talk. So they will talk about these things. But if we are going to get traction in how it affects business, then it is going to be the likes of Mr. Jebutu and Mr. Nemeka who will put action behind it. Reason being that they have positioned themselves in a particular part of the value chain, which is absolutely critical. They're a market to smallholder farmers. And they need to be there for the smallholder farmers to know that there's somebody standing at the end of the chain to take what they need. That is the incentive and the motivation the smallholder farmer has to continue to produce and produce well. But at the same time, they, along with the commodities exchanges, must now begin to help to define standards that these smallholders are supposed to comply with so that their commodities continue to be acceptable to a larger market than their family that they feed on a subsistence basis. So I would not say I have ever expected government to do anything major about managing post-harvest losses, just like I don't expect government to do anything that is around the efficiencies in the agricultural value chain, which is the crux of what we suffer in Nigeria today. The key challenge is that we are not getting to the market competitively in terms of cost, in terms of quality, and in terms of a number of other things that affect how the market will accept the products that we produce. So who will invest in those efficiencies to ensure that we get what we are supposed to be getting from agricultural produce? Government has done what it has done well. Well, we can qualify well again. Government has done what it has done well since 1956. Whether it is efficient or not, whether they are doing it right or not, they continue to import fertilizer and continue to do to provide agrochemicals or support people that provide agrochemicals. But in terms of investing in the infrastructure of agriculture, which is what post-harvest loss management is, if we expect it to come from government, beyond the silos that we have that do not work, it will not happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So what you're saying in essence is we as individuals need to make that conscious
We as
effort.
businesses, we as stakeholders in the agricultural value chain
As businesses.
must make it work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that information. So going further, I would like to ask, we have a question here, and I think that question goes to Mr. Nnemeka. You talked a lot about tomatoes, and some participants are asking how further can tomatoes and onions be preserved efficiently. So from your experience, maybe you could give some tips on preservation of tomatoes and onions.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think for us, I mean, at the company I founded in 2015, we built solar-powered working cold rooms at key points along the food supply chain to store and preserve commodities like tomato, like spring onions, like bell pepper, green beans, celery, parsley, lettuce, broccoli, even Irish potatoes, and extend the shelf life from approximately 1 or 2 days that it normally stays to up to 21 days, which is 3 weeks. So, I mean, our cold storage is very well designed to hold up to 3 tons of food at a time, and with an internal cooling temperature ranging from plus 5 degrees Celsius to up to plus 16 degrees Celsius. But we also have cold storage, solar-powered cold storage that are blast freezers. We have 2 of them in Akwa Ibom State, where we are storing bonga fish, barracuda fish, at sub-zero temperature of minus 15 degrees Celsius. And also in Akwa Ibom State, we're also using solar to produce ice blocks, up to 1 ton of ice every day. That's 100 units of the 5 kilograms tabula ice every day. And this can also be used to extend other commodities. There is also possibility of drying tomato. There's also possibility of drying pepper. But I mean, most of the juice are raw, and there is also possibility that if foods is actually doing. I think there is technology available to extend the shelf life of food and maintain and nutrition for everyone. There are costs associated with it, but in the case of cold hubs, what we do, because we work directly with smallholder farmers, retailers, and wholesalers, is that we go build a cold room, and we then open the space so that people like the person that asked the question can come and store their tomatoes or their onions in a 20-kilogram plastic crate and pay us 100 naira every day. So maintaining the cold room, management of the cold room is left for a company that has the expertise to actually undertake that task. And so what you do as a farmer or a retailer and a wholesaler is that you just bring your commodity and store inside the cold room, 1 crate, you pay 100 naira every day. And that's the way we feel we can actually democratize cold storage infrastructure and make it accessible to anyone who wants to use that technology. Each of these cold rooms are very remotely monitored, in a sense that you that is bringing the commodity can actually see the cold room temperature at that point in time. So you can determine it's too cold for my apple, it's too cold for my tomato, we need to cool it off. But most of these commodities have an optimal cooling temperature of about 12 degrees Celsius to 14 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
Okay, hello, Ada. I think NSPRI can also talk around the tomato and the onion storage. So, NSPRI, Dr. Doreen, please talk about the tomato. and onion storage. Further talk about it. Thank you, Namika.
Okay, thank you very much. As I mentioned in my presentation, that preservation of tomatoes, as also Namika has talked about, starts with from the farm. Instead of using this cane basket that roots the tomato, it is good to use the plastic crate. So we advocate the use of plastic crates for transportation and for storage instead of the cane basket, so that the tomato flesh will not be bruised, and in that way they can stay whole for a period of time. And it is also important, the cold storage too. We have a cold room for storage of tomatoes. It is also important, if you want to maintain the freshness, then a certain temperature must not be exceeded. We also have different dryers for drying or pepper tomatoes. In order to keep it for a longer period of time, you can also dry it. We also process it into tomato paste. We have different products from tomato, that's value addition, which we have also trained a lot of farmers and stakeholders and youth corpers on this value addition production of tomato paste. When the tomato is blended, cooked, and then it is put inside a bottle and sterilized, it can stay like that for a period of 1 year. We have tried it without going back. If the bottle is properly sterilized, the tomato paste, fresh tomato that is made into a paste, can stay that way for a period of 1 year without going back, changing. And over the 1 year trial period that we have had, sensory evaluation we carried out, and also chemical analysis to check the properties of the tomato that was stored. So those are the different ways that tomato can be preserved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. While our colleague Ada comes back up, there are other questions as regards the storage. Okay, somebody had asked, but how do we retain 100% quality of fruits and vegetables after drying them whilst increasing their shelf life? I don't know, Tomato, can you talk around this?
Okay, yes, I definitely can.
Right.
So right now we work with dried produce, and we work with chili pepper, garlic, onions, maize, quite a few, dealing with about 15 to 60 different products. And I'll tell you this, that most of for the bigger part of it, that we dehydrate internally. So what you have to do is, because most of the vegetables and fruits, they cannot be exposed to high heat. And just like Mrs. Idoranya had mentioned, a lot of what she has said is around the wet side of it. But then I want to say there's a bigger market in the dried part of it. And I can tell you this, for the most part, if we had access to data, we would be surprised to know the volume of onion flakes or onion powder or garlic flakes, garlic powder continues to be imported into this country, either by multinationals or by a lot of the snack producers and all of this. And that's just because they do not have companies that can produce this. A typical farmer can put the chili pepper, dry it on the road, it's dry, and it can go to the market. But because of the high moisture content of produce like onions and garlic, if you have to dry them on the road, they absorb dust. And by the time you're milling this produce, you're getting a lot of sand particles with it, which makes it impossible. So to achieve the dryness you want, they have to be done in an enclosed space, more or less at a commercial scale. So presently we use dehydrators, and it's quite expensive because you're running a lot of power. There's a lot of processes that goes into this. But then at the end of the day, I always want to tell you, it is very productive. It is very, very profitable, irrespective of how much you put. So the best way to dry it is you have to do a slow. Most times it's, if you're talking about onions, we're drying at a temperature of between 60 degrees and 70 degrees. So the dehydrator will swing between 40, 70, and then all the way. It dries for about 18 hours. So you're getting your flaky onion flakes, your flaky onions and the nutrients and everything you require is still preserved inside of it. So right now we cannot meet demand for onions. We cannot meet demand for garlic. We do not have the dehydrators, to meet all of this demand. And if you hear the volumes, some of the things that the government could do is to provide data as to what's the volume of this produce being imported into the country. Because if we make this industries very lucrative, people might think about investing into it, because a lot of people are ignorant of what is happening. But just to answer the questions, slow process, low temperature is the best way to dry most of these products. It retains the nutrients, remains really, really good and really, really nutritious and tasty.
Okay, so follow-up question. Yeah, the technology is really there, but where do we get such dehydrators? Mrs. Doro, you can talk about that, and then Temitope can also throw more light on that. Where do we get the dehydrators? Because I know of somebody that says she hydrates her tomato. She dehydrates her tomato and can store it for 6 months. And all she needs to do is to soak it into water and it comes back as fresh. Somebody had said that to me. So just talk about where we can get the dehydrators, and then Dr. Doreen too can also talk about it.
Okay, so it's good to soak it in water, but I'll tell you, you don't even need to soak it in water. Just sprinkle it into your food, and the taste comes alive. That's the good thing about either you're using the white onions or the red onions. For us, I'm going to do a follow-up with Mrs. Doreen to know how their equipment work. But we have not been lucky with made in Nigeria equipment. A lot of the equipment have looked really good, but then we've had a lot of issues with after service. So most of them come one time, fix something, second time, by the third time they don't want to come anymore. So where we found value for money equipment, we've had to import significant numbers of them from China. It comes at a premium though, but then I will tell you, it makes its revenue in a very short period of time. The payback period is short. So for most of this equipment, I would advise, if you're looking for value for money, you can go to China. If you're looking for more premium, then you would have to go to Europe. But then it's good to hear Mrs. Doreen, and I would follow up. We had to kind of know what kind of equipment they have. But then even for us, another issue we've had with locally made equipment has always been with the aesthetics of it. Organizations like ours will do a lot of audits in terms of FSSC, audits and what have you. And some of these locally made equipments, they don't come with the finesse that helps you prevent those cronies. You find food materials going into corners, and then when you're being audited, they tell you these are potential hazard in terms of biological hazards. So if we get people, maybe Mrs. Norema, or come to you, equipments that come with the right finesse, and the right aesthetics, to do well for us, we'll definitely be interested. But for right now, all our equipments are imported.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Idore, can you contribute to that question?
Okay, thank you so much. For the drying of fruits and vegetables, we have different types of dryers. Most of them make use of solar. Like I said, an improvement for farmers, because here we are working more with the local farmers that cannot afford to import equipment either from China or from other countries, but yet they have to dry their products. So we are telling them not to spread it under the sun and get the food products contaminated, and at the end of the day we eat and get sick. So we are trying to find better alternative for them. That's why we make different dryers, like the tent dryer. They are well covered. Instead of just spreading their products under the sun, they can make use of these dryers. And for those that have access to electricity, some of these our dryers, they are powered by electricity. We also have those ones that are powered with gas, and they're effective. We have been using them, and we have introduced them to some farmers, and they are making use of them currently.
Okay, thank you so much. This is also to let us know that our keynote speaker, Professor Godfrey Nzamujo, is here. He's present here live. Um, he'll get to speak to us as we progress with the forum. Thank you very much, Mark. Mr. Nnemeka, you had mentioned packaging, and I said I was going to get back to you on that. We know how important packaging is when it comes to food, not just food presentation and also food preservation. So you deal with cold stuff like cold storage. What packaging would you recommend for vegetables that are highly perishable, like the tomatoes and all that? You know, personally, I've noticed that sometimes if I put tomatoes in a bag, you know, there's polyethylene bags and all that. Before you know it, it's spoiled the next day or the next few days. So now this people who are in the business of food production may need to package whatever food that they are producing to get to in order to get it to the final consumers. So what would you advise? What packaging material would you advise for longevity, for at least the long lifespan of the product?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think there are two packaging materials for fresh vegetables. The first are the paper boxes. They are very good. And again, for environmental purposes, they are biodegradable and they are attractive. So the paper boxes are good. But, you know, it really needs to be studied. You know, it needs to be very, very of high quality. You know, it needs to be very well finished, and it needs to be able to withstand the rigors of Nigerian highways and Nigerian roads at the same time. So it needs to be very high quality. The second are the plastic crates. You know, the plastic crates are very good in packaging because the edges internally are really smooth. You know, so it doesn't bruise the vegetables, it doesn't bruise fruits because of the smoothness of the edges. You know, I think what we should avoid as much as possible in packaging, any packaging material that we create bruises around fresh fruit and vegetables, because once they have been bruised, from that point of bruise, it's just like a human being, you know, it starts dewatering. The water that comes out are actually the nutrients of that vegetable. Yeah. Thank you. I think you are muted, Adobe.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry about that. Now, talking about the nutrients, the water that is like the actual nutrients of those vegetables. I don't know if this question would be more appropriate for Mrs. Idore, who is into, you know, drying and all that. You know, when you dry vegetables, Mrs. Idore, I think you'll be in the best position to answer this. When you dry vegetables, you're drying up the moisture, the water, which is the actual nutrients. So how do you now recover these nutrients that have been dried up when you want to use it? Are you now going to be used, is the end product going to be chaff? So you're now eating chaff. So how do you recover those nutrients?
Thank you very much. You know, what we are trying to do when it has to do with the vegetables and fruit is that instead of losing everything, we have some retained. The truth is that when once you are drying, most of the nutrients, like we encourage people to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. But for us not to lose everything, then we now dry the remaining parts so that we can have it going to be available mostly for those products that are seasonal. So like products like things like vitamin C, they are heat label. So by the time you heat it up to a carry out analysis of a fresh product and then a dried product, you will see that the quantity of vitamin C will be low in a dry product. So for you to actually have everything, all the nutrients intact for fruits and vegetables, it is better eating fresh. But for us not to lose everything, because you see, as I said, at harvest time, we always have surplus. For us not to lose everything, it is better we dry it. Some of the nutrients will still be there. We still have the mineral content intact because they are not that heat level. But those things like vitamins that are very susceptible to high temperature, they will actually be decreased. So from evaluation analysis, laboratory analysis that we have had on our fresh and dried products, like things like vitamin C and vitamin A are always very low in the dry products. But nevertheless, we will still try to have some of the nutrients, like the protein content will not be reduced, and many other vital nutrients, they will still be intact. But those ones that are heat labeled will go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that insight. So in essence, we'll recommend, as you're consuming dried products, try also to supplement with the fresh ones, so that you can, complement those nutrients that got lost in the process of drying. Thank you very much, ma'am, for this insight. And I'll also ask you this question, because you are in the business of manufacturing. What has it been like, the cost of manufacturing this technology and all that? What has it been like when you compare it to the demand for it, or rather the demography of the the consumer that will be using the product that you are producing? What do you think you need help? Do you think you need some sort of incentives? We know it's a huge demand out there. It's a huge demand out there. We know that there is a cost attached to producing that technology. So from your experience so far, how has it been? Do you think you need help? Hello, Ma, did you get the question?
Okay, you are talking about I didn't get the question quite right.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, I said you are in the business of producing this technology used in food preservation. So I was like,
Yes.
What is the cost like? Considering that there is a huge demand there, and also most times the demography, the purchasing power of the consumers that are supposed to be getting that equipment from you is low. Like they don't really have that much money to buy this. So from your experience, how do you think you need help, to be able to make this product available for every level of income earners, so that even the low income earners can afford it, the middle income earners can afford it, the high income earners can afford it. So what is the cost like? Do you think you need help, some sort of support?
Yes, in many cases we need help and then support. But there are some of the farmers that are able to afford it. They will come and tell you what they want. Okay, they need a smoking cane, and they are able to buy it for themselves. But most times we are looking at people that don't really have a job, like the youth corpers. They are just coming out, they don't have a job. So in that area, in many occasions, we seek for support to be able to empower them, beyond training them on how they can support themselves, where instead of sitting down looking for a government job, we need also assistance. So in many cases, we've been having assistance, and people have been coming to sponsor them. And then these products, you will realize, even if you buy it by yourself, at the long run, you will realize your money, because they're not perishable. Like our smoking cane, once you buy it once, it's something you can use for a period of 10 years. They don't just go bad because they don't get consumed with use. So at the long run, you are able to drive with it. And the important thing is that the products that are coming out from it are better. They are exportable, unlike those ones with open fire, just using charcoal, open fire, firewood and all that, and they absorb too much smoke, and those smoke comes with carcinogenic substances. So, but our control, the way our smoking kiln, for example, is fabricated, we have an indirect drying such that the fire is not just facing the fish racks directly. So the quantity of the smoke that is going into the fish is not to the level of causing danger. So in the long run, you will make those that can afford to buy it themselves, they make profits in the long run.
Okay, ma'am, thank you so much. Okay, so we have this question here that we'll be rounding up with, and that question will go to Mr. Olabode. I'll just read out the question. How is the Hematic storage facility designed to minimize physiological and physicochemical processes, in brackets, respiration, moisture, it's quite a whole lot. So I think I'll just
sure that's for me? I think you should read for a doctor. I've not read that much of grammar in 30 years.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I think I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it.
It's quite a lot.
Yes,
how is the Hematic storage facility designed to minimize physiological and physicochemical processes, in brackets, we have respiration, moisture condensation, heat buildup, all that occurs within grain storage system that could lead to post-harvest losses? I think maybe I should send this question also to you through chat. It's quite a long one, so that you could also get to read it on the chat platform.
Okay. So what is there is that hematic, what it means by hematic, it means it's airtight. There is no oxygen inside, so life is not supported. Where there is no oxygen, you cannot have life supported there. And as I explained in my presentation, that before something can be properly stored in this hematic condition, the products have to be dried to a safe moisture level. If you carry a wet product like a wet grain that still have high moisture content and put in there, that means there is already moisture that is present there that will support life. But when this grain, this hematic storage is mostly for dried products, grains and other dried products. When they are dried to that safe moisture level, this safe moisture level is a level that thing is stable for a long period of time. When it is dried to that level, and then you put it inside an hematic system. When you think about this hematic system, it's not just one very big thing. As I said, that it's just mostly simple thing. Even if you carry a bottle now, for example, you can experiment on it. Just pick an insect, put it inside a bottle and cover it properly. Just check it in less than 24 hours, that insect will not be alive again. So that's just what happens there. That because there is no oxygen inside, life is not supported.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, that was a new one for me. It's a new learning for me. Thank you, ma'am. So, Mr. Olabode, I have a question for you, sir. And the question goes like this: how can your institute be of help to those in the rural areas who cannot afford the cost of buying food preservation technology?
Are you sure that's still not for doctor? Because I don't work in an institute.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
The institute is actually positioned to be of help to people in the rural areas. Like we have farmers association, like Fish Farmers Association, we have had building a processing center for them. We have one in Niger State, in Oyo State, and different places in the country, and we are currently working on more incubation centers, processing centers. We have like farmers associations, like 4 to 5 people coming together. A center is established for them. Everything is put in place for them to start business with it. And what we do is that we monitor them, go there to get feedback. If they have problem, we try to solve whatever problem they have. And many people are doing well in that direction. We also have training for different categories of people. As last year, we empowered corporates. After training, they were asked to write proposals, and the best 2 proposals were empowered with 4 million naira. And we have different incentives like that for rural farmers and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Oh, okay, it's been a whole lot of information to take in.
Can I come in there real quickly on the last
Okay, please
question?
do.
Yeah.
Please do. Yes,
I think in addition to what Dr. Nwa Ehujo has mentioned, I think we also need to transform these opportunities into a business, you know, in a sense, because there are so many young people who need to run centers for food processing, for storage, and so on. So, you know, the infrastructure world is moving from ownership to servitization. You know, so people need to also understand that we are moving towards servitization, where you have one drying equipment serving a whole village run by a serious person who actually sees it as a business. So you need business behind all of these technologies. We need to start building business around them, because it's actually only when we build business around it will the sustainability be achieved.
okay.
Yeah. So we need to start thinking servitization too for some of those infrastructures.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nemeka. I'll also ask you this question. What are the different cooling centers for tomatoes?
So at the moment, we have 54 cold hubs in Nigeria in 22 states. We actually have a cold room in Fruit Market, Obunabali. We have in Plateau. We have cold rooms in Abuja, in Zaria, Dan Magaji Market in Zaria, Yankaba in Kano, Orange Market in Nasarawa, Day Market Abuja, Mile 12 Lagos, Ogere in Ogun State, Old Artisan Market Enugu, Wadata Market Makodi. We have a presence in 22 states. We are building another 100 new cold rooms before the end of 2022.
Okay, are these cooling centers reserved for specific products or collection of vegetables, fruits?
So the cooling centers are reserved for the collection of fresh fruit and vegetables. Only the 2 cold rooms in Ibono and Ibaka are being used for fish. In Mudalawal Market in Bauchi, the cold room there is being used for chicken, for the preservation of chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Then the rest of them are really, I mean, you can just walk in and store your produce there. It's available.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to our panelists. It's been a time of learning for us. I also learned new things from the discussions that we just had. So to round up this discussion, we just want to take one final word from each of the panelists. What word do you have for our participants with regards to post-harvest loss? So Mrs. Midore, we'll go with you first. You've put on your video, so you take the lead.
Okay, thank you. My final word is that knowledge is power. So I'm encouraging everyone that have joined us today and those that will later join us by listening to the recording to actually put this thing into practice instead of waiting for government, because government will not be able to help us always. We can actually make something for ourselves. We can actually help ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Olabode, do you have any words for them? For us?
Well, I think Doctor said the better part of it. It's not a fad. It has to be something that we have to commercialize and see as an integral part of getting a more efficient value chain. I'll get in touch with the Tope in terms of certain things, but if NSPRI is already designing it, who is commercializing it? Tope mentioned something about the finis and the aesthetics of the final product. Who is taking that on? And is there as an integral part loss management for it to begin to make sense to all? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Tokwe, Mr. Temi Tokwe, final words.
Final word. The industry has transitioned from agriculture to agribusiness. Agriculture is real business. Every inefficiency exists in the sector is a potential opportunity for somebody or a group to transform into a money-making endeavor. We continue to make so much noise about increasing production. What we should actually be focusing on is optimizing what we are producing. If we take the first statement and the second statement together, I believe we're going to make a whole lot of changes in the industry.
Thank you. Mr. Nemeka.
Thank you very much. I think the inefficiencies as final words are just the inefficiencies within the food system is as a result of lack of infrastructure to support food supply. And within this challenge exist incredible business opportunities, like Dr. have mentioned, Mr. Bode and Tokwe have mentioned. We need to start thinking beyond the problems and, set up businesses that will tackle the challenges and make money out of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us. We are glad that you've been able to share some knowledge with us. And we hope that we'll be able to take this knowledge and also put into practice all that we have learned today. Thank you once again. Thank you for joining us today. So right now we have Professor Godfrey Zamujo with us here, but we're going to play that video that we had challenge with at the moment. Please stay tuned and look at your screen. Thank you.
My brothers and sisters, good afternoon. I'm really very, very sorry that I'm not here with you today. The reason is simply that this week is extremely busy for me. I have
Sorry about that. We're trying to get the video running.
With me a lot of delegates from throughout Africa, from Burundi, the first family in Burundi.
Oh, I think we're really having challenges with the
Burundi, from Mauritania, even from the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I would suggest we send the link.
It's extremely impossible for me to be here with you. But this message is...
And Professor Zamude is here currently.
Of letting
okay,
you
so
I have your back.
I think what we're going to do is we'll send the link to the participants. You can watch the video
today.
Your own
food loss.
But we have Prof here.
That is
and,
ever increasing.
Prof, hello, sir. Would you want to say some words to the participants of this forum? Hello, Professor.
Yeah, so I can see his audio is not enabled. So, sir, if you can go out and come back in and enable your audio. But if we're not able to, we can actually wrap up.
Okay, so while we wait for him to get back into the meeting and speak to us. We'll just take our evaluation poll. So we're going to, okay, since our video is coming. Okay, so we will take our evaluation now. We'll put up a poll on the screen. Please give us your feedback concerning this forum while we wait for Prof to get back into the meeting and speak to us. So on your screen, you'll be able to see the evaluation poll. We are committed to continuous improvements in our operations and our forums, and we'll need your feedback to be able to work on that, on a better forum next time. So kindly give us your feedback on this forum. Thank you.
Does it represent this threat? But also, when we want to tackle it, we find it that this task is extremely formidable. You can understand why I'm really bent not to be with you today, so that together we'll try to attack this problem today. But to begin with,
We'll send the link to participants. So Ada, you can proceed and wrap up.
Okay, while you're sending your feedback on the forum, we just want to use this opportunity to say thank you to our panelists for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. We believe that our participants have taken away key learnings from this discussion today. And many thanks to you, our esteemed participants, for joining us and making this discussion a success. The recording of this forum will be on our social media platforms and on Facebook and also on YouTube. Just search Wider Perspectives Limited and you'll be able to have access to this recording on the sites. So the recording will be made available. You can refer to the videos if you missed out anything or any information for this forum or you want to refresh your mind. So just to remind you that this post-harvest loss forum does not end here. We have planned future ones for later this year, and we'll keep you in notice when we are ready to go for the next forum. So on behalf of Wider Perspectives Limited and our partner, the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, would like to thank you for joining us today. Before you exit the meeting, please would like to have a photo session. We want to take photos now. So we're going to need you to enable your videos so that we'll get some photo shots of the participants. So my colleague Lasprey will facilitate the photo session. Thank you. Okay, Lasprey, maybe you should let us know.
Please, those are who can all turn our video now.
Are we done?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Listen to text something.
Okay, thank you so much, Willie, for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you in our next post-harvest loss prevention forum. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I was asking you how, now that we have identified all these problems that will lower harvest losses for the farmers, what actually do we advise the farmers to do, considering the large number of the poor ones we have in the country?
Lazare. Lazare. Lazare.
I can hear you.
I think there's a question now.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Apa